Hello crew and welcome aboard. In today's match, both Johannes and me dive into the recently released expansion Dogs of War. Johannes plays a Bajoran Radar Drops deck featuring the new Headquarters event, and I play the Cardassian Liberation front. Both of us haven't tested the decks before, so brace yourself. Johannes wins the dice roll and we kick off the seed phase by placing our doorways. Johannes seeds an alternative universe door, a temporal micro wormhole and a Q's tent. I seed a Q's tent Civil War and a battle bridge door. Johannes initiates the mission phase by seeding Verify Legendary Journey, and I stick my first Cardassia region mission in form of Crusade Rendezvous next to it. Johannes' next mission, Relocate Settlers, is in the Bajor region, so he sticks it next to the journey. I have an Evade Borg vessel and place it next to the Bajor region. Johannes seeds Characterized Neutrino Emissions and places it between Relocate Settlers and Evade Borg vessel. I seed Cardassia next and place the Orbit Negotiations at one end of the region. Johannes' next mission is Attack at Rare Phenomenon, and he places it next to Evade Borg vessel. I have another Cardassia region mission and place Resist Occupying Forces into the central end of the region. Johannes seeds Investigate Quarantine and keeps sticking it to the end away from the Cardassia region. My next mission is Steel Breen Armament, and I seed it next to Cardassia. Johannes' last mission is Alter Records, and he places the Bajoran homeworld between Characterized Neutrino Emissions and Evade Borg vessel. My final mission seed is Research Historic Accident, which I place at my end of the space line. This also allows me to download a transporter mix-up. We then continue with seeding our dilemmas. Notably, Johannes has one self-seed to his Verify Legendary Journey. Afterwards, we place our remaining seed cards onto the table. Alongside his doorways, Johannes seeds Tribunal of Q, New Arrivals, a Hidden Agenda, Chamber of Ministers, Deep Space Nine to characterize neutrino emissions with its 6 sites, Reshape the Quadrant, which downloads Call for Reinforcements, Bajoran Resistance Cell, Shipyards to the Chamber of Ministers, and Kobayashi Maru Scenario to Cardassia. I see Tribunal of Q, New Arrivals, Make It So, 2 Hidden Agendas, Reshape the Quadrant, which downloads the Cardassian Liberation front to Vendan Prime, Secure Homeworld to Cardassia, and Process Ore Mining to Vendan Prime as well. We both draw our starting hands and advance to the play phase. At the beginning of Johannes' first turn, I use Tribunal of Q to download Q the Referee. Johannes then proceeds by playing Varal Antos for free to the Chamber of Ministers, and Lupazar as his normal card play to the Promenade Shops, which draws him a card from Primary Turbolift. He then moves Lupazar to the Ops to protect against the impending doom of Quark and draws 2 cards to end his turn. I use the Liberation Front to download Revolutionaries instead of my normal card play, and download Bronok and the Dekelen to Vendan Prime. Also with the Cardassian Liberation Front, I free play Sascha. I have nothing else to do, so I end my turn and draw 2 cards. Johannes plays Raska Khan for free with Bajoran Resistance Cell. As his normal card play, he reports a Bajoran Raider to the Chamber of Ministers with the crew of Mirror Barile and Overseer Odo. That draws him a card for the Shipyards, and then he uses the Bajoran Resistance Cell to download an Espionage Bajoran on Cardassia to Talos 4, which draws him 2 more cards. The Bajoran Raider flies to Deep Space Nine, docks at the docking ports, and Lupazar walks to the Promenade Shops, while Barile and Odo walk to the Ops. At the end of his turn, Johannes probes at the shops and reveals Morn, which is a miss, but a nice draw nevertheless. He draws his 2 cards and passes back to me. At the beginning of my turn I use Process Ore Mining, so I discard a card to score 1 point and draw 2 cards. I convert my normal card play into a download for the stolen attack ship with the Cardassian Liberation front and free play Bronok. I then discard the Referee to download Defend Homeworld, which I use right away to download Kira. I beam her up to her matching ship in orbit, which allows me to use Make It So to download a Ready Room door, which then downloads lower decks. I place the Ready Room door on top of my deck and end my turn by drawing 1 card and returning the Referee to the table. Johannes reports another Bajoran Raider with the crew of Morn and Kira Nerys. He draws a card for the shipyards, and with new arrivals he plays Murjo for free to the chamber. Johannes then downloads an espionage Bajoran on Cardassian to Bajor and draws 2 more cards. The newly played raider moves to DS9 as well, and more instinctively walks to Quark's bar. Both Odo and Lupazar move to the docking ports and start to quarrel over the remaining seat aboard the Bajoran raider. Johannes solves the fighting by playing Hidden Fighter for a Bajoran interceptor to the away team at Bajor, as well as an established landing protocols. All 3 personnel board the interceptor, which takes off and flies to Deep Space Nine. All personnel at the docking ports now embark the interceptor, but Johannes decides to wait 1 more turn and draws 2 cards to end his turn. I use the Liberation Front to download Revolutionaries again, and this time I fetch Ari and Hogue. I play Hidden Fighter at Vandan Prime to get a Hideki cruiser and establish landing protocols, and then play Chaban for free with the Liberation Front. 4 personnel at Vandan Prime board the cruiser, which takes off from the planet and moves near Cardassia for a rendezvous with the Crusade. I start a mission attempt there, and Johannes reveals personnel duty. My only eligible personnel is Ari, so he gets stopped. Johannes then reveals V'ger, and since I don't have diplomacy present, the Hideki cruiser and its crew gets destroyed. I then play Ready Room Door for a Captain's Lock, replace it on top of my deck, and draw 2 cards to end my turn. Johannes draws a card for Morn, which should have happened at the end of his turn, but who cares? He plays Gun for free to the Infirmary with the Resistance cell, and draws a card for Primary Turbolift. As his normal card play, he drops another raider, with the crew of Cassidy Yates and Rudolph Ransom. Because of the latter, Johannes has to discard his Reshape the Quadrant now, which was probably just a diversion anyways. He then uses Bajoran Resistance cell again to download Espionage Bajoran on Dominion to attack at Rare Phenomenon, and draws 2 cards. At the docking boards, Raska Khan boards a raider, undocks, and attempts characterized neutrino emissions. I reveal Standoff, which stops his redshirting attempt. After that, Johannes moves Bareil to the docking ports and builds a crew for the interceptor, which undocks and re-attempts the characterized neutrino emissions. Gunned, Bareil Antos and his mean counterpart overcome the standoff. I reveal Cyterians as the next dilemma, which sends the interceptor on a voyage towards Cardassia. This prompts Johannes to suspend play for the special download from Bareil, for which he downloads everyone's favorite umbrella to the docking ports. After the interceptor moved to Vandan Prime, Johannes walks all personnel from the docking ports to Ops. He ends his turn and draws 2 cards. I start my turn by mining and discard a card to score 1 point and draw 2 cards. I download Revolutionaries again, this time for Chaban and Bronok. I then play Parn for free with new arrivals and a Ready Room Door to download Defiant Dedication Plug. Since I am too intimidated of a potential counter-attack, I skip to the end of my turn to play Secret Sabotage, and the interceptor suffers 2 photon torpedoes as damage markers, which only kills Bareil. I draw 2 cards and pass back to Johannes. Johannes draws a card for Morn, plays Room for free to Quark's bar, and reports a Bajoran raider, this time with Kes and Neela aboard. He draws another card for the shipyards and moves the raider to Deep Space Nine. He then downloads Espionage Bajoran on Cardassian to characterize neutrino emissions and draws 2 more cards. Raska's raider makes another mission attempt there and detects a Ferengi infestation, which immediately stops him. Rome, Neela and Kes walk to Ops to join the party there, and the Cyterians force the interceptor to the orbit of Cardassia. Johannes ends his turn and draws 2 cards, one of which he downloads for a hidden referee card with the Tribunal of Q. I process Ore again and discard a card from hand, score 1 point and draw 2 cards. I play Odo for free with Cardassian Liberation Front, and Dukat as my normal card play. Dukat beams up to the stolen attack ship to greet his best friend Kira, and they depart on a romantic trip to Cardassia. The remaining away team at Vandan Prime starts a mission attempt there now. Johannes reveals Thasian Powers, which I could pass by discarding 4 cards from my hand, but this is too expensive for my taste and the mission attempt ends. Dukat and Kira crown their honeymoon by blowing up the interceptor at Cardassia. I then replay the ready room door for a mission debriefing, which gets turned face down, and I place the door beneath it. I end my turn and draw 2 cards. Johannes draws a card for Morn and uses Call for Reinforcements to convert his normal card play into a download for an assault vessel to the docking ports. He then plays Zormagren for free to Bajor with the Resistance cell, and Raska Khan and his raider dock at the ports. A fraction of the ops party walks to the assault vessel, which then undocks and flies to Bajor to pick up Zormagren. It flies back to the Denorius belt, and Johannes starts another mission attempt there. Overseer Odo and Kira Nerys provide the security against the infestation, but unfortunately Johannes forgot to pack a second science, so he cannot solve the mission. Apparently, he then second editions himself by thinking that his ship is now stopped. He flips one of his hidden agendas and discards the just revealed Defend Homeworld to download Shakar Edom to the Promenade shops, who immediately joins the ops party. At the end of his turn, Johannes draws only 1 card so that his hand cannot get scorched. I skip mining for cards because of Thasian powers. I play Rusot for free with the Liberation Front and report Naprem as my normal card play. Some of my Spoonhead rebels beam to the Naprem, which flies to the rendezvous point near Cardassia, and I make another mission attempt there. Johannes uncovers a dead end, and since I didn't process enough ore yet, the attempt ends and the dilemma is placed on the mission. I then fly the stolen attack ship back to Vanden Prime, draw 2 cards and end the turn. Johannes draws a card for Morn and reports a Bajoran raider, this time with pink, and Curzon Odo, and then he draws a card for the shipyards. His free play is Anjol and Win to the Chamber of Ministers. He then uses Peng's special download for the Tsunkatse ship. Johannes reallocates his personnel between DS9 and the assault vessel and starts another mission attempt for characterized neutrino emissions. Rom, Rudolph Ransom, Soma Gren and Cassidy Yates solve the mission and Johannes scores 35 points. He then docks the assault vessel at the docking ports and does some more beaming. The Tsunkatse ship then flies to Bajor, beams some personnel down, and he attempts to alter records. I reveal rules of obedience and the rebellious Shakar gets punished. Peng and Odo overcome the dilemma, and then I reveal enemies of the state, which lets me download 3 dissidents. I go for Hoke, Quark and Ari, and place the dilemma onto the mission. The away team can't handle Quark's integrity and gets rightfully stopped. Johannes reckons that he has done enough for 1 turn, draws a card and downloads Stratagema instead of a second draw before passing back to me. Despite the dead end, I skip to process ore again and play Revolutionaries from my hand to download another Ari and Bronok to Vanden Prime. I use new arrivals to play Darrell for free there as well. The Naprem returns to the operating base and I beam my staff to their different posts. I then play a Disruptor Overload to the away team at Bajor, which is more motivated for reducing my hand size rather than destroying the transport inhibitor. However, Johannes uses Neela's download for a Bajoran phaser, which also gets randomly selected to be destroyed by the overload. I then move my 2 ships out of orbit and start a mission attempt at Vanden Prime. I pass the Thasian powers with 68 cunning, and as suspected, Johannes reveals the inedible pancakes, which kills 4 of my personnel. The next dilemma is a medical crisis, which my remaining away team cannot solve. They are stopped and the attempt ends. I fly my ships back to Vanden Prime, draw 2 cards and end the turn. Johannes plays Lita for free to Quark's bar, and I smoke bomb the away team at Bajor. Johannes then drops another Bajoran raider alongside Gary 7 and Ranjan Koral. Lita downloads Starboat to the bar, and Johannes moves all personnel at Deep Space Nine to the assault vessel, undocks it and moves it to Bajor. He beams everyone from the assault vessel to the Tsunkatse ship and moves it into the compression anomaly, where he starts a mission attempt. I reveal another Ferengi infestation as the first dilemma, which Johannes' crew cannot overcome, and the attempt ends. He then downloads an espionage Bajoran on Cardassian to the intersystem Tachyon eddies with Bajoran Resistance cell, draws 2 cards, and ends his turn by drawing 2 more cards. I resume to process ore, discard a card from hand, score 1 point and draw 2 cards. As my normal card play, I download Revolutionaries again to get 2 copies of Belva. I play Ikor for free with the Liberation Front and beam everyone down to the planet to start a mission attempt. The medical crisis stops the Rel, but Nurse Chaban and the two Belvas overcome the dilemma. Kira, Odo, Seskal and Ikor have the required skills for the mission and I score 40 points. I beam a few personnel up to the Naprem and fly her all the way to Calvas 5 to start another mission attempt there. Johannes reveals Edo Probe, and since I don't want to jeopardize my score even further, I opt to end the attempt. I also end my turn and draw 2 cards. Johannes reports a Bajoran raider, this time with Vina and Furel. He then plays Tabor for free to Bajor with the Bajoran Resistance cell, and I play another smoke bomb to stop him and the rest of the away team there. Vina then moves to Quark's bar, and Johannes uses Ranjan Corral's special download for Dick to unearth Bareil from the discard pile back to his hand. Furel and his raider fly to Bajor, and Johannes uses the assault vessel's transporters to beam him down to the planet. He then flies the Tsunkatse ship to Talos 4, beams the whole crew down to the planet and starts a mission attempt to investigate the quarantine. I reveal Buried alive, so the attempt ends. Johannes decides against re-attempting, beams everyone back to the ship and flies it back to the compression anomaly. Afterwards, Vina spins the Dabu wheel, but gets unlucky. Johannes draws 2 cards and ends the turn. I process Ore to score another point and draw 2 cards, while cursing the moment when I cut Distorted Reflection from the deck. I report Mila as my normal card play, and play Chaban for free with the Liberation Front. Then Naprem flies back to Vanden Prime, a few personnel beam up to the attack ship, which then flies to Cardassia. I beam an away team to the planet and start a mission attempt to secure my homeworld. The Kobayashi Maru scenario selects a Chaban, and Johannes reveals a combo scow as the first dilemma. Mila experiences her second spring and runs off to Talos 4. After thinking about using her special download for an equipment, I decide against doing so. The garbage blocks the mission now, and since I am out of range, I end the turn, draw 2 cards, and time's up for the enemies of the state. Johannes skips his play phase, and as his first action, he beams everyone at Bajor up to the assault vessel to avoid getting smoke bombed. He then flies the vessel to the compression anomaly to meet with the Tsunkatse and beams some personnel between both ships. After that, he starts a mission attempt with the assault vessel and its crew. Gary 7 and Tabor have the 2 security, while the rest of the crew provides the necessary cunning against the Ferengi infestation. I then reveal another Cyterians, which smiles at the assault vessel, and the attempt ends. Fairly unimpressed by the omnipotent aliens, the crew of the Tsunkatse ship re-attempts the mission, and I reveal a standoff. Ranjan Corral, Curzon, Odo and Lita provide the 3 anthropology to pass it though, and Nila and Kira Nerys solve the mission for another 35 points. Johannes flies the Tsunkatse ship back to the Bajoran homeworld. He beams Ranjan Corral aboard the Bajoran Raider, which flies to Deep Space Nine, and after docking, Ranjan Corral walks to Quark's bar. Back at Bajor, Johannes beams a few personnel down to the planet, and I smoke bomb the just arrived away team. Vina plays another round of Dabo, but the devil is in the cards, and Johannes draws 2 cards to end the turn. I process Ore again, score 1 point and draw 2 cards. Then I do what I should have done the turn before and report Elon Tandro as my normal card play. My free play with the Liberation Front is Dizzy, and then I beam Elon Tandro to the Naprem. With Dukat on board, I am able to fly the Naprem to DS9 and dock her at the ports thanks to Tandro being a VIP. Tandro then walks to the bar, captures Ranjan Corral and punches Vina. It is now my turn to spin the Dabu wheel, and I successfully probe for 6 more points to set me past the 50. Since this had to happen at the end of my turn, I have no other choice except drawing 2 cards and passing back to Johannes. Johannes skips his play phase again and initiates a mission attempt at Bajor as his first action. I reveal Berserk Changeling, which is overcome by Kira Nerys and 2 Odos. He barely misses the mission requirements, so I flip mission debriefing to stop his away team. After the attempt, I interrupt with a non-appropriate resuscitation to return a smoke bomb to my hand. Johannes beams down more personnel, and I play the smoke bomb for no reason, since Johannes now has all the skills at the planet and will win the game at the start of his next turn anyway. Unless, of course, I give him that one more turn. Before Johannes passes, he flies the assault vessel with the Cyterians into the crowded orbit at Bajor, draws some cards, and I download Natima Leng with Quark. I report Tekini Gamor as my normal card play, and Mason for free with Cardassian Liberation front. I beam a few personnel down to Vanden Prime, just to beam them up again for a transporter mix-up, which replaces Belva and Mason with Merdan and Trepa from the Mirror Universe. Merdan, Ruzot, Belva and Dizik staff the attack ship, which flies near Cardassia, while everyone else stays down at the planet. I attempt the Crusade rendezvous again, and Merdan and Ruzot solve the mission for 25 points. This stops the attack ship thanks to my own mission debriefing, and then Elon Tandro walks back to the Naprem, which undocks and flies all the way back to Vanden Prime. It picks up everyone there and still has the range left to make it to Verify Legendary Journey, where I start my final mission attempt. My own dead end gets quickly surpassed, and Johannes reveals my next dilemma. The misinterpreted history kills Dukat as a matter of principle, but Trepa overcomes the dilemma on its own. Rules of Obedience is the next dilemma, and Johannes chooses Ari to die. Rekelen, Kira and Odo overcome the dilemma, and tensions about the last dilemma, which is Johannes' self-seed, arise, and I wonder what could stop me now. It's a whale probe. Everyone, including myself, goes into stasis, and I end my turn. Johannes doesn't waste any time, and initiates a mission attempt at Bajor as his first action again, and since we determined the necessary skills the turn before already, the 35 points for Alter Records win him the game. That whale probe was a tricksy self-seed by Johannes, since he also would have been able to solve the mission after I cleared all the dilemmas. I probably should have focused more on solving my own mission, but stealing the 40 points was just too tempting, even though I didn't consider it while seeding the dilemmas. Overall, there was a lot going on in this game. Johannes' deck demonstrated once again the power of the report with crew mechanic. This allowed him to assemble powerful personnel from other quadrants like Kess, Penk or Bareil, who not only fill the skill holes of the Alpha Bajorans, but also provide some critical tech for various situations. His army of raiders also kept me from attacking with my ships within his territory. I probably focused too much on interfering, but my main goal was to test the near secret sabotage. My current perception tells me that it's probably better suited for incidental damage and hindering rather than an all-out battle deck, which is also quite difficult to pull off since the Liberation Front has a limited access to ships. On top of that, the Liberation Front has some serious weaknesses, which became more apparent to me during the match. The transporter mix-up, though, is a neat trick to circumvent some of the most striking skill gaps. Managing your personal downloads and normal card plays with revolutionaries is the biggest constraint for the deck, though. This could be compensated by cooperating with another faction, which also doesn't use facilities like the Telani, the Maquis or even the Bajoran Resistance. But then you get more problems with card draws and operating on the space line.